The government of Saskatchewan used the notwithstanding clause to pass a new law on parental rights, but if teachers don't follow it, the Premier is not sure what the consequences will be. Scott Moe says that's up to school divisions. For more on that and the rest of this week's political news, we've reached our panel. Adam Hunter covers politics for CBC Saskatchewan. Murray Mandryk writes a political column in the Regina Leader Post. Hi, guys.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, happy Friday. Adam, what's the latest on teachers?
This is something a question that's been kind of an open question since this policy was introduced in August, and we had asked it at the time, what's the punishment for teachers or schools who don't follow this policy? Then, of course, there was a court case, and then the injunction paused the policy, so the school divisions all were implementing the policy, decided, okay, we're going to wait and see what happens. The government comes in with a notwithstanding clause about a month or so ago and passes the law. And when Premier Moe was asked about it this week, he said, we're not exactly totally sure, but we expect the school divisions to follow and obey the law. This comes after a petition is circulating online where teachers signing saying they're not going to obey the government's law, that they're going to use their own judgment essentially in these cases. And we don't really have a clear answer from the Premier or the Minister of Education other than we think the law should be followed. And school divisions are all kind of saying what they've been saying for the last number of months, which is we're still implementing the policy. We're still going through what we need to do. And we have to remember that this is the government's parental rights policy, which had a bunch of different clauses in it, including the naming and pronoun policy, which we're kind of awaiting to see how the school divisions are going to implement it and what the punishments potentially could be and what would be a punishment. How would they decide whether you're not following the rule or not?
Yeah. How would they even know, maybe, if you're following the rule or not? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, here's what I know. It was impossible not to notice, given all the drama last month related to the pronoun bills. You saw the protests. You saw the anger out front, the counter protests, the back and forth. What Moe announced yesterday was remarkably drama-free, and I took that to mean that they were trying to calm the waters a bit. Now, this is the Sask Party government, and this is not necessarily their modus operandi. They love the drama, as we'll get into in a moment, I'm sure. But they took an approach where it's back in the court of the school divisions, which really begs the question, why do you need a notwithstanding clause? Why do we need the legislation at all if it was basically left to the good judgment of school divisions and teachers to make this decision? Now, they did say they expect the teachers and the school divisions to follow the Education Act, the law on the matter, but they really didn't say what the consequences would be if they didn't. They didn't seem to want to up the ante. That might change because next week, Nadine Wilson, the Sask United Party leader, member that was a former Sask Party member, was threatening to bring parents down to the legislature to force the issue. It's a great issue for them. It's why we have had this bill in the first place and why this all happened, because of the pressures stemming from the Lumsden-Morris by-election. And the whole notion that this was somehow a huge issue throughout the province when no one else sort of saw it as such. But nevertheless, there was all that drama that initially that didn't seem to be happening. I'm thinking that might change, but at least for now, I take that to be a good sign from the provincial government. I hope that is the course upon which they remain, but I don't think it will be. I think they'll get back to the way they do things.
Okay, well, we'll let you update us on that as it happens. Adam, you also had a story on our website this week and on radio. Opposition concerns about a government MLA and the rates his motel was charging a client of social services. What's the latest?
This is Regina Northeast MLA Gary Gruel, and he owns the Sunrise Motel in East Regina. We looked into this, and the average price is about up to $90 a night. The social services client, in this case, it was a senior who was evicted from her care home because of a cockroach infestation. She needed some place to go. She went on her own volition, chose the Sunrise Motel. She paid $132 a night plus a $200 damage deposit for the first night, and stayed there for a couple of nights. And then social services found out about her story, decided to foot the bill. She was there for 15 total days. Over the course of that time, once social services started paying, that bill rose to $165-ish a night, and then again to $200 a night, much well over what the government, what she initially paid, and the quoted price if you were to book the motel right now for tonight. The government's explanation is that the NDP is first taking a swing at their honorable member, and that there's nothing hasn't involved in this in any way, that he doesn't manage the day-to-day operations. And they're saying that from time to time they have to pay higher rates because of just getting someone into a safe place to stay, that there maybe is a shortage of rooms. We want to give someone a warm place to stay. So that's been a bit of the explanation from the government. The opposition says there's still a lot more questions about how often social services has to pay a higher rate, whether they're being gouged by not just this motel but others.
Yeah. What do you make of this?
Well, a lot of people have been asking me, why aren't you guys calling this a scandal? They're asking that on social media.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is a scandal yet. I am saying that could possibly become something much bigger. It certainly is horrifically bad government policy if you are, because government is paying through taxpayers' pockets, social service recipients to be in hotels on occasion. If there is a situation where hoteliers are all of a sudden charging double and more in terms of the rates that they charge simply because the client is being paid for by government, and if this is a hotel owned by a MLA doing this, it's hugely problematic. The notion that he wasn't around, he didn't know, come on. No one believes it. But a couple things here, they're really important. As Adam noted, Evelyn Turner decided to go to this hotel initially on her own. She wasn't directed there. We don't know if this is a one-off at this rate. The NDP have specifically asked that question, whether there were more than one social service clients moved towards Mr. Gorell's establishment hotel. If there is a whole bunch of clients, I guess that's more serious questions. At any rate, though, the question that I think really needs to be answered is why are they paying so much as soon as the government pays? It has something to do with a damage deposit that the government says it won't pay.
Which was paid in this case,
But in this case,
yeah.
the individual paid it on her own when she stayed there on her own ticket, didn't get her damage deposit back, and somehow the provincial government thinks we shouldn't be getting the damage deposit back from hotels and we should just be paying it. That's just bad policy. And so there's a lot of questions to be answered. Anytime there's a lot of questions to be answered, government get a little nervous. I'm really interested to see where this one goes.
Yeah, me too. And finally, in our news today, the latest development on the province not wanting to collect or pay the carbon tax unless Ottawa evens the playing field when it comes to home heating.
Yeah, knock me over with a feather. We're talking about the carbon tax again. Marie and I have become experts. The big thing I think here to note is that the government already said they were going to do this. The bill that they introduced yesterday specifically transfers the legal responsibility from Sask Energy and its directors, its employees, for not sending the carbon tax money back to Ottawa, which was $170 million last year. From them to Dustin Duncan, the minister, and Dustin Duncan says, "I've retained legal counsel in this situation. I'm on the hook if we decide to do this and not send the money back." He says it'll save Saskatchewan people, the average homeowner, roughly $400 next year if they decide to do this. They still haven't formally said we are going to do this for sure, but this bill is lining that up. That's what they're going to do. The federal government said in response in a statement to me yesterday that they expect the government to obey the laws, and that if you want to be a part of the team, you should do what Manitoba did and get on board with some of the things we're doing, and you'll get some of this money. The provincial government says, hey, you're making different rules for different parts of the country. It's unfair. They called this their Fairness for Families bill yesterday. And Dustin Duncan says, this isn't a stunt. This is something we're prepared to do, that we're very serious about doing. And, he said they expect the federal government to still change their minds. The federal government's given no indication that they're going to exempt this home heating from Saskatchewan or anywhere else other than Atlantic Canada.
So what's going to happen to Dustin Duncan?
I don't think he's going to do any hard time. I think he's pretty safe. I think it is a stunt. Here's your choice, Stephanie. You can basically do what the government did, which is make a huge stink about this, and rightfully so, because as Adam said, I think people with natural gas are being treated unfairly, and I think there's political motivation for the federal Liberal government to do what they did, because most of the people in Atlantic Canada, or the most people affected by using oil home heating, are in Atlantic Canada, where they happen to be sniffing for votes right now, and that's hugely problematic. I, as a Westerner, as a Saskatchewan person, I'm annoyed as hell by this too. That said, there's a couple of interesting ways you can handle it. You can make a big stink about it. You can have meetings back and forth between Ottawa and the federal federal finance minister and the provincial finance minister. You can snort and threaten and eventually pass legislation as they did this week or present legislation as they did this week to get around the law and remit the tax and have a law so that your minister doesn't wind up going to jail, which he never will anyway because they won't ever charge him. Or here's another thing you can do. You can lower Sask energy rates. That would be another thing to do, and it would accomplish the same thing. And you can say you're doing this for the same reason, but you don't get the dramatic headlines. You get the same result for consumers, and you help them every bit as much, but you don't get all the drama. And this government just loves the drama. They seek it out on an individual basis. They seek it out on a collective basis because they want to create people. They want to create parties as their enemies so they can have something to point to. And that's something that's really tiring and difficult, even on an issue where I think they're very right on this particular issue, because I think Ottawa is dead wrong in terms of how at least they handled this whole thing. The government is making this into something that they don't have to quite make it into. So yes, in that sense, it is a political stunt.
Thanks, you guys.
You're welcome.
Welcome.